October 12th, 1960, 4:47 p.m. 18-year-old Cassius Clay stood on Harlem's most dangerous street, sweating and scared. But he wouldn't turn back, he couldn't. Because he was going to Bumpy Johnson's office. And he was going to ask a question. Such a question that its answer would change his entire life. How do I speak fearlessly? When Bumpy Johnson heard that question, he had laughed. But then he looked at the young boxer. He saw the fire in his eyes, and as he understood from his eyes, this kid was different, and the lesson he would give him would create a world champion. Nobody knew this story. Nobody heard what was discussed in that office that day. But what was discussed changed the fate not just of a boxer, but of an entire generation. This story isn't in any biography. It doesn't appear in books about Cassius Clay's, later Muhammad Ali's, life. It's not shown in documentaries. Because that day, there were only two men in that room. Young Cassius Clay and Harlem's king, Bumpy Johnson. Both kept this secret for years. But in 2015, a journalist doing research in Harlem came across an old notebook, Bumpy Johnson's personal notes. And in that notebook, under the date October 12th, 1960, was this note. A young boxer came today. His name is Cassius. He doesn't want to learn how to fight. He wants to learn how to speak. I told him the truth. Now let's see what this kid will do. When the journalist saw that note, he was shocked, and he started searching. Old records, witnesses, clues, and finally put the story together. Now I'm going to tell you that story. The lesson a young boxer received from Harlem's most dangerous man, and how that lesson made him a legend. In 1960, Cassius Clay was 18 years old. He had just returned from the Rome Olympics with a gold medal, America's pride, and known as the future champion. But there was a problem. Cassius was black, and in 1960s, America being black was a heavier burden than a gold medal. Cassius came from Louisville, southern Kentucky, the place where Jim Crow laws reigned. This was where whites-only signs were posted, but Cassius had fought for the USA at the Olympics, and won. He wore the gold medal, returned to Kentucky with pride. But when he entered a restaurant, they wouldn't serve him. No service for blacks, they always said. That day Cassius made a decision. He would never be silent again. But there was a problem. He didn't know how to speak. He knew how to throw punches. He knew how to fight. But he didn't know how to strike with words, and Cassius knew that. Enemies in the ring are defeated with fists. But enemies in life are defeated with words. That's why in October 1960, he went to New York, to Harlem, because there was a man there, a man whom all of Harlem listened to, a man even the police feared, a man who had built a kingdom with words, Bumpy Johnson. When Cassius arrived in Harlem, he was shocked. This neighborhood was different. Here, black people held their heads high. They ran their own businesses. They played their own music. And they lived by their own rules. Cassius entered a barber shop. "How do I find Bumpy Johnson?" he asked. The barber stopped his scissors, looked at Cassius. "Why are you looking for him, son?" "I need to talk to him." "Who are you?" "Cassius Clay. I'm an Olympic champion." The barber laughed. "Champion? So why are you looking for Bumpy Johnson? He's not a boxer." Cassius answered directly. "I know, he's a king, and I want to learn from a king." The barber looked into Cassius's eyes. He saw determination, he saw courage, and maybe a bit of craziness. "All right, son, but be careful. Don't waste Bumpy Johnson's time. That man doesn't like fools." The barber gave him an address. He left the street and continued walking toward the address. Then he arrived in front of an old building mentioned in the address and started reading the note he got from the barber. 3rd floor. "Knock on the door. If they let you in, you're lucky. If not, come back here and don't try again." When Cassius arrived at the building, his heartbeat quickened. The building was old but solid. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. 2 men stood at the door. Both were large, looking cold and soulless. One of them said, "What do you want, kid?" "I want to speak with Bumpy Johnson." "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "Then go." Cassius didn't leave. "Please, just 5 minutes. I'll ask him one question." The man leaned forward. "Listen, kid, Mr. Johnson sees hundreds of people every day. Who are you two? Just then, a voice came from inside. Who is it? The man cracked the door open. A kid, says he's an Olympic champion, wants to talk to you. There was silence for a moment, then the voice came again. Let him in. The man was surprised, but he opened the door. You're lucky, kid. Come in. When Cassius entered, his breath caught. The room was luxurious. Thick carpets, leather chairs, wooden tables, pictures on the walls as if each picture had its own story. And at the end of the room, in front of the window, sat a man. Bumpy Johnson. He was in his 60s. His suit was perfect. His fedora was on his head. In his hand was a glass of cognac. He wasn't looking at Cassius. He was looking out the window. What's your name? Said Bumpy, still not turning. Cassius Clay. How old are you? 18. And you're an Olympic champion? Yes, sir. Bumpy turned, looked at Cassius, looked at him for a long time, then spoke. Why are you here, Cassius Clay? Cassius took a deep breath. I came to ask you a question. What question? How do I speak fearlessly? Bumpy's eyebrows raised. Then he laughed, a deep, long laugh. You came here to me to learn how to fight? No, sir. I already know how to fight. I don't know how to speak. Bumpy stood up, approached Cassius. Sit, he called out sternly. Cassius sat. Bumpy moved to the chair across from him. The two men looked at each other. Why do you want to learn how to speak? Said Bumpy. Because my fists only work in the ring. But outside, in the real world, throwing punches is a crime. Speaking is power. Bumpy nodded. You're a smart kid, so why did you come to me? Because everyone talks about you. You're a gangster, but nobody can arrest you because you fight with words. I want to learn that too. Bumpy smiled. So if I teach you, what will you do? I'll become world champion, and nobody will silence me. Bumpy looked into Cassius's eyes, and at that moment, there was fire in those eyes. There was belief. He could feel he was seeing it. And maybe a bit of craziness. Bumpy made his decision. All right, Cassius Clay, I'll teach you, but on one condition. What is it? You'll never use what you learn for bad purposes. Only for yourself, for your people. I promise. Bumpy leaned in and began the lesson. Cassius, speaking is an art, said Bumpy. But it's an art like fighting. It has rules. What are the rules? Bumpy started counting on his fingers. 1. Never enter silently. Enter with noise. People must feel you before they hear you. Cassius was taking mental notes. 2. Never speak ordinarily. Every sentence must be unforgettable. People must repeat your words. Cassius nodded. 3. Never show fear. Even if you're scared, never let it show. Because words are strengthened by confidence. 4. Know your opponent, find their weak point, and strike there. Not with fists, but with words. 5. Believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody will. Bumpy leaned back. These are the 5 rules. If you apply them, nobody can silence you. Cassius asked, But how do I start? What do I say? Bumpy smiled. You say who you are. Let me give you an example. Bumpy stood up, moved to the center of the room, and began speaking. My name is Bumpy Johnson. I am the king of Harlem. You can love me or hate me, but you cannot ignore me. Then he turned to Cassius. Now you try. Cassius stood up. At first he hesitated, but then he remembered. Never show fear. He took a deep breath and spoke. My name is Cassius Clay. I am the greatest boxer in the world. Nobody can beat me because I'm not just strong. I'm fast, I'm smart, and I'm fearless. Bumpy applauded. That's it. That's exactly it. Now you spoke. You spoke with self-belief. Cassius smiled. For the first time, he felt powerful with words. But that's not enough, said Bumpy. Just speaking powerfully isn't enough. You must speak with rhythm. Rhythm? Yes, like music. People love rhythm. They love rhymes. If you speak like a song, they'll never forget you. Bumpy demonstrated, I'm Bumpy, I'm strong, I'm Harlem's only master. Then he looked at Cassius. Now you try, talk about boxing, but make it rhyme. Cassius thought, then tried. I fly, I sting, my opponent falls, I win. Bumpy shook his head. Good, but not enough. Be more creative. Shock people. Make them laugh. Surprise them. Cassius tried again. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Bumpy's eyes lit up. That's it! That's it! Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Perfect. Cassius was excited too, because in that moment he had found his own style. One more thing, said Bumpy. Learn timing. What do you mean? Know when to speak. Sometimes you must be silent, sometimes loud, sometimes attack, sometimes retreat. How can I know when to speak? Bumpy walked to the window. By listening, by watching people, by feeling the moment. Then he turned to Cassius. For example now, I taught you, you learned, but you're still here. Why? Cassius thought. Because I want to learn more. Wrong, because you're waiting for the right moment, the moment to leave, and that moment is now. Cassius understood. He stood up. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Bumpy extended his hand. The two men shook hands. Cassius Clay, you're a special kid. Use what you learned well, and remember, words are more powerful than fists. I won't forget. Cassius walked to the door, but before opening it, he turned. Mr. Johnson, one day the world will know me, and that day, I'll say your name. Bumpy smiled. Go, Cassius, and conquer the world. Cassius Clay left Harlem that day, but he never forgot Bumpy Johnson's lessons. In 1964, he became world heavyweight champion, and after the match, he shouted in front of the cameras, I am the greatest, I am the champion, I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The whole world heard him. The whole world was shocked, because they had never seen a boxer like this before. One who spoke with rhythm, who believed in himself, and who spoke fearlessly. In 1964, Cassius changed his name. He became Muhammad Ali, and became one of the greatest boxers in history. But not just because of his fists, because of his words. Muhammad Ali spoke throughout his life. He opposed the Vietnam War. He fought against racism. He spoke out against injustice, and in every speech he used Bumpy Johnson's lessons. Enter with noise, speak with rhythm, believe in yourself, never show fear. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968. That same year, Muhammad Ali did an interview. The journalist asked, "Who taught you how to speak?" Ali smiled. There was a man in Harlem, but I can't say his name, because that man didn't just teach me how to speak, he taught me how to live. The journalist took notes, but never learned who that man was. In 2015, when that journalist found Bumpy Johnson's notebook, everything became clear. October 12th, 1960. A young boxer came today. That boxer was Cassius Clay, and that lesson was the one that made him Muhammad Ali. Two men, one teacher, one student, and one lesson, and one legend. Bumpy Johnson taught Cassius Clay how to speak, and Cassius Clay gave the world Muhammad Ali. Nobody knew this story until that notebook was found. Now you know. The world champion learned from a gangster, and that lesson changed history, because sometimes the most powerful punch is thrown with words. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like. We share Bumpy Johnson's unknown stories every day. Tell us in the comments, do you think Cassius found the right man?